US President Joe Biden has just joined TikTok. Despite the Chinese-owned app being banned on most US government devices over major national security concerns, Biden's campaign launched its TikTok account yesterday during the Super Bowl. The video is captioned "Lol, hey guys," and it features aides questioning the president about his preferences for the big game.
Game or commercials?
Game.
Game or halftime show?
Game.
Jason Kelce or Travis Kelce?
Mama Kelce. I understand she makes great chocolate chip cookies.
But this is a sign that the president is desperate to win over younger voters. And the 81-year-old is trying his best to relate to Gen Z Americans, speaking about one of the most popular pop stars on the planet right now, Taylor Swift.
Deviously plotting to rig the season so the Chiefs would make the Super Bowl, or the Chiefs just being a good football team?
You get in trouble if I told you.
Trump or Biden?
Are you kidding? Biden.
It's a change of heart from the president, who in 2022 signed legislation that blocked most federal government devices from using TikTok. And lawmakers from both sides of the aisle have called for the app to be banned over concerns Beijing could access user data.
It screams out with national security concerns.
We're all just trying to square why the president would use this platform that his administration is weighing a national ban on because of national security concerns.
I just can't speak for the campaign or their decisions. I apologize.
Thank you.
The concerns over TikTok's algorithm have not gone away, and the app is becoming a primary source of news for younger generations. It's a way many Gen Z users are sharing their opinions about the Israel-Hamas war.
If Hamas had me, they would probably make sure I was okay. They would probably comfort me. They'll probably feed me, make sure I had medical attention, make sure I was doing okay.
What is Senator Langford's issue for not calling for a ceasefire? Standing with Israel means civilians are going to die. You're killing children. I hope you're happy.
I'm putting together a list of businesses and brands to boycott, but I also want to have a very effective guide of brands that we can support. Share the businesses that you know are pro-Palestine.
It's been claimed that TikTok has become a platform for anti-Israel propaganda to be shared.
When one person starts talking about it, more people start talking about it, and then once you hear it several times, you're going to think that it's true. And none of this is by accident. This is all intentional. It's Hamas's plan. The problem is that their plan is essentially to spread this propaganda throughout the internet.
But despite this, Joe Biden is hoping to be re-elected in November, so he's doing what he can. And it's not looking good for the Democrat. The latest ABC News Ipsos poll found 86% of Americans believe the president is too old to serve again, including 73% of Democrats.
He's had a very, very rough couple of days. My guess is word has already made it down to your part of the world regarding the special prosecutor report saying they are not going to charge him criminally for withholding confidential documents, specifically because he comes across or would come across to a jury essentially as a doddering old man with a bad memory. That is not what the President of the United States needs to hear right now. The Democrat Party is up in arms about it. There have been many, many meetings in the last 72 hours amongst Democrat leadership trying to figure out how to handle it both publicly and then what to do about it if it's not salvageable. It's been a very, very bad weekend for President Biden.
Yeah, so among those meetings, figuring out how to respond to that and how to counter this independent report that essentially calls him, as you say, an elderly, well-meaning man with a bad memory who couldn't remember when he was vice president, couldn't remember when his son died. Among those meetings, Mick Mulvaney, are they talking alternatives?
They are. The problem they face is that it's a very messy process for them. Kamala Harris, the vice president, would be the typical place that they would go. You and I have talked about this before. There's no heir apparent to Joe Biden. The reason that Joe Biden was on the ticket in 2020 is that he was a reasonable alternative to Donald Trump. If he can no longer serve that role, it's unclear who will. You could look at the governor of California, you could look at the governor of Michigan, you could look at Kamala Harris, but right now the Democrat Party is in a complete turmoil in large part because of this report. It's taken the things, Laura, that a lot of folks were talking about in private, off the record at cocktail parties and fundraisers and so forth, and put it on the front page of every newspaper in the United States, including the New York Times, which was criticizing Biden over the weekend.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think you might share this view that even when Joe Biden is reading off a script, off auto cue, in any kind of public address, he's still stuffing up.
Well, look at the TikTok video. Does that video itself, which I guess is supposedly designed to make him look a little bit hip and a little bit, viable, does that really give you a lot of confidence about his ability to serve another 5 years as president of the leading democracy in the world? Probably not. So he also had, by the way, they had an impromptu press conference from the Oval Office right after the special prosecutor report came out, and it went very poorly as he, in an attempt to defend his memory, confused the president of Mexico with the president of Egypt. These things continue to pile up for him. It's just getting worse for them every single day.
Yeah, not to mention talking about Macron. We meant to talk about Macron, but he was actually talking about, I think, a French president from decades before. What happens here? Do you have any, predictions? Do they just go to the election with Joe Biden at this point and really take the Democrats over a cliff? Or is there going to have to be some intervention? You and I have talked about in the past whether, it would be a sneaky way to do it, but you go through the primary process, Joe Biden becomes the declared candidate, and then late in the piece, you pull him somehow because of medical reasons, and then the establishment, the establishment, not knowing who that would be, install another preferred candidate. And that way you get around putting Kamala Harris in. Or is that just a conspiracy theory territory?
No. Actually, I think that's plan A at this time. It's not a conspiracy theory. The problem is it's full of difficulties because it's too late for them to have a proper primary. It's too late for them to have a primary with real candidates on ballots because under our law, many of the ballots have closed. It's not possible to get another person's name on the Democrat primary, for example, in the states on Super Tuesday. So what you just described is sort of plan A, which is they go to the convention with Joe Biden as the nominee. He either resigns or they decide to replace him against his will, and they put someone else in there. That means they're essentially going to have a coronation, not a primary, and there's going to be a lot of people who are upset about not being the person who gets the role. And if they don't pick Kamala Harris, then they've passed over the highest ranking African-American woman, not only in the party, but in the country. So it's very, very messy, very sloppy, and it doesn't build a lot of goodwill with voters.
No, it certainly doesn't. You mentioned the governor of California or the governor of Michigan. Look, I can't see the California governor winning the popular vote in middle America. Would you agree with that? And would the Michigan governor be a little bit more centrist, perhaps? Yes, the Democrats know they have a difficult time running someone from California because California is so much further left than the rest of the country. Of course, California's left, New York and Massachusetts will be left. Michigan, much more centrist sort of state, a Midwestern state. She is a female. It's Gretchen Whitmer. She's a very talented governor. But again, how do you explain to your African-American base why you passed over Kamala Harris? Yeah, it's a really good question and not a great position to be in for the Democrats. Mick Mulvaney can't wait to talk next week. It seems to be a long time in politics these days. We'll speak soon.